All right, welcome to those who are listening out there across the YouTube or Spotify universe. This is Jason Richardson. I am the Vice President of the Home Service Companies for Security National Life, and I am your host for these One Door at a Time podcasts that we do. This will be episode 13 if you're keeping score. Before we get into that and talk to today's guest, if you haven't already done so, consider liking this video or some sort of sign of appreciation on whatever platform you're listening to it on. And hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification so that when these go live, you'll know. And you can, of course, listen to them at any time, whether you're listening to it when it first comes out or later. It doesn't make any difference. The fact that you're listening, we appreciate. And with that, let's get to our guest. Today's guest is going to be Mr. Greg Sargee. And just for those who don't know, have to be very specific when it comes to which Greg we're talking about. At the time of this recording, we have three of them on our team. So I don't know if it's Greg 1, Greg 2, Greg 3, and which one this one reports to be. But this is Greg Sargee. Greg, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, Greg, for those out there who are not familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the insurance business.
I am born and 90% raised in Louisiana in the Natchitoches area. When I was a much younger person, toddler age, my family moved all around the world. My father was in the oil field business, and so there was times when I was much younger that I lived in Lagos, Nigeria, and then from there to Las Palmas in the Canary Islands, and then we eventually made our way back to central Louisiana. Speaking of my father in the oil field business, he got to the point in the late 70s where he was unable to work anymore and went on disability, which made a tremendous difference in his income. And my mother went to work with a home service insurance company. It was her first job outside the home. She was quite successful with it, and so she introduced the idea of insurance to me. At that point, I was in my late teens, mid to late teens, and then when I got out of high school, I joined her.
Wow, so it became kind of a family thing. So curious, what oil company did your dad work for?
He worked for several over the years, Pennzoil, Penrod. The last company he was with was Odeco or Murphy Oil.
Okay.
And he was an electrician on deep sea oil rigs, at one point off the coast of Brazil. At this point, the last one he was on before he was disabled was off the coast of Brazil, deep water. Back when we lived in Nigeria and Las Palmas, it was off the coast of Africa.
Yeah, so for the listener's sake, I will put this disclaimer out there. So pardon me as I get a little sidetracked as often I can. I might have mentioned this to you before, Greg, but my great-grandfather ran Penrod Oil Company.
He did.
Yeah, and so the only people he reported to were the Penrod brothers. And so worked his way up and then retired in the 80s. And so yeah, so I'm very familiar with Penrod. They used to have a house in Toledo Bend. The main one was in Dallas, so.
Yeah, the Toledo Bend homes are, that's the vacation homes for those types.
Well, especially nowadays because some big investment firm came and bought that house and raised it.
Wow.
It looks nothing like it did back in the day when it was dirt roads out there, and I rode three-wheelers around. Kind of date things there because obviously people don't do that no more. It's not safe, but
no, it's changed a lot now. So
yeah,
lots of nice homes out that way.
for sure. So your mom gets into the business. Obviously, her success is what interested you at first about getting into the business. But like many people, myself included, something about this business, we at times will go away from it, thinking like there's grass is greener on the other side, only to find ourselves back in here because if it ever gets in the blood, you just can't help it. You're always prospecting, you're always talking to the same customers over and over again and building those relationships. Obviously, I'm sure you were making decent money, especially at the time that you went to work there. But what other than that was kind of what endeared this business to you?
Working with people and being outside of an office. Um, Even when I went away from insurance for a while and went to other things, it was usually one was a state circulation manager with a newspaper, dealing with customer service and such, and other sales, but it was always something that was outside the building. I felt cooped up in an office, didn't like being there. But the primary thing was working with people and really feeling like that I was helping them would handle a problem or handle an issue ahead of time that they were eventually going to have, whether they realized it or understood how it could impact them. Yeah, I was there to kind of help them get to where they needed to be.
I guess that any salesperson could have put a spin on what they sell makes a huge difference in somebody's life, right? Back to the days of encyclopedia salesmen going door to door, and they would say, "Well, hey, our your kids will be so much smarter than everybody else in their class because of access to this knowledge." Probably, obviously pre-internet and things being available at the touch of a button. Or if the going to Zig Ziglar and thinking of how he sold pots and pans. Hey, these pots and pans are going to make your life so much easier in the kitchen, and you'll be the talk of the town in a good way. Every salesperson can kind of say that about the item that they sell. But I think because of our clientele, which for those who are listening and are not familiar with, is typically the lower middle to low income uh, clientele. Because of our clientele, we're not dealing with doctors out there. We're not dealing with people that, hey, if I don't have life insurance, I can just write a check for this at the time of
Right.
loss. We're dealing with
Mhm.
people that these small, some refer to them as burial policies, but these small whole life, small face amount life insurance policies make a big difference in people's lives. So it's very easy to see how what we do is very important. I'm sure that you have much the same kind of stories when I say that there's been plenty of people that I've paid death claims out on. And if it wasn't somebody going by there to make sure that they paid inside of their grace period, that they ended up keeping it even when times were tough, that odds are they wouldn't have had it when they needed it the most.
Yeah, there's been several occasions where someone has, or I should say, family member has thanked me for being persistent with keeping a certain individual, making sure that they pay their life insurance because it would have been a crippling bill for the family if that person had not had anything in place. Um, and there's been tragically some situations where, as much as I tried to work with someone, they, you know, prioritized other things in their life and ended up facing a terrible situation with not only having to deal with grief, but now trying to figure out how to fund the funeral costs of a loved one. One particular case was a woman that was dealing with a 28-year-old daughter that just dropped dead on a Sunday, and that's certain something you don't expect. But that's exactly what insurance is there for, is for what you don't expect to happen. And of course, eventually we know it is going to happen. We hope it's very, very far down the road. But that's the big thing about what we do. If you have a nicer set of cooking pots, or you have a nicer set of windows, or if you have newspaper delivery service, it's a little better. All that's nice, but it's not priority. What we do with selling our insurance products to our clients is that's much more important because that's something that everyone faces eventually.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said before, for those who don't have the type of disposable income to be able to write a check for when those funeral homes want their money, it's more important to them than what it might be to someone else. So you have the type of freedom you did. Obviously, you were impressed, or at least a little interested, in the amount of money that you could make in the business, as opposed to, say, sitting in an office somewhere, uh, clicking the typewriter keys a few times. Um, and so you worked with the company that your mom was with, and you kind of bounced around. Um, and so your mom stayed into the business till retirement.
She did. She did. She ended up going to a separate company when I started work. I wasn't with her at the same company. I had a pressing issue though. I was getting married and I needed a stable income. So I kind of took the first opportunity that came along. That one unfortunately didn't work out due to some circumstances way beyond my control. But the following, so one Friday they decided that, you know, I needed to move on. And the following Monday, I went to work with Central States as they had heard good things about me. Central States at the time was a sister company with Kilpatrick Life Insurance. Their home office was based out of Alexandria, Louisiana. And so I went to work with them that Monday, working a debit with that company, and got an immediate 54% raise. So I wasn't too unhappy.
Yeah, none of us like change, but when they're accompanied with some zeros on the right side of the decimal, it's always good. So,
But and the original company I was working with was one you're familiar with. They're actually the ones I got my start with, and they had some issues. And anyway, so I'm glad I moved on to Central States. It's actually my one biggest regret was my wife was taking care of my great uncle at the time. He was living with us. Did not want to go in a nursing home. I felt like I needed more time, so I got away from debit insurance business. Wasn't so much I didn't have the time, I just didn't manage it correctly. But I felt like I needed more time. I was young and stupid. Went with another ordinary company, immediately regretted it. That's been my biggest regret work-wise is that I ever left Central States. And I would have ended up with Security National eventually anyway.
right. Yeah. So for those who are listening and are not familiar, so Central States was purchased by Kilpatrick Life, and of course, Security National purchased Kilpatrick Life at the end of 2019. So that's what Greg's referencing. He would have ended up being with us anyway. And so, yeah, it does take some getting used to. We all look to that field on the other side of our fence and think that the grass is greener. You know, I'm sure there was some salesperson over there on the other side saying, "Oh man, this is awesome. This is great. You know, the grass don't even have to be mowed. It's so awesome." And only for us to get over there and realize that it wasn't all that bad on the other side, as what we thought when we were in the middle of it. Because when you're going out there and seeing the customers, I probably can be guilty or try to be guilty of underselling the opportunity, so that people don't think that I'm painting things with rose-colored glasses. But uh, you know, there are times when things are tough here, just like they are anywhere, right? I mean, if everything was perfect, the last guy went and quit, and we wouldn't have quit, and we wouldn't have a job, right? So the deal being that when you're out there talking to customers, not all of them treat you nice. Unfortunately, not all of them pay you when they should. So you have to make back calls and those type of things. And so when we're in the middle of that, and the lapses are high and the production's low, that's usually when the competition used to come calling and say, "Hey, Greg, come on over here." Um, those type of situations are anywhere. But I would argue, and Greg, if you see differently, certainly let us know. But I would argue that in today, 2025, it's easier to make the kind of money that they need to make with the same amount of time as it's ever been. And by that, I mean that the contract is what the contract is, but you don't have to, you've got bank draft nowadays. You've got, you can take payments by phone, by the internet. There's things like Cash App and others. We don't have to chase the mailman to make sure that we get to Miss Jones's house in the time enough to cash that check before she goes to Walmart and spends it. We don't have to worry about those things no more. There's ways that we can make better uses of our time. You mentioned measuring your time properly earlier. I think there's more ways to do that today if somebody was playing their cards right. If you think about even the phone, when we started in the insurance business, cell towers out in the rural areas that at least I serviced, they didn't work, and I certainly couldn't use my cell phone because it wasn't unlimited like they are today. And so you would have to call from either a payphone or from inside the customer's house, hoping to reach the next person. But now you can sit there and just text people. I mean, the opportunities to take advantage of the um, technology that's out there have never been greater. Would you agree with that?
I would certainly agree with that. And for anybody that's looking at whatever still picture is of us with this particular interview, we'll see all the gray hair. When I was doing this to start off with, sell what? Pagers what? This was if you didn't contact them on their phone the night before calling from your home, then you just went out there on a hope and a prayer that they were going to be there. And in some of my area, of course, in Louisiana, we had parishes, not counties, and my original Central States book was all of Southern Natchitoches Parish, which is one of the larger parishes in the state. So, but yeah, absolutely, today is much easier. Even the construct of the company and the contract makes things a lot easier. I remember years and years with closeout day and going into the office and everybody freaking out. I remember sitting with my mother when she was working originally as a debit agent and counting out the pennies and trying to make the pennies match because the company would not allow her to close out and go, yeah, there you go. That's it. Yes.
So you
Just
don't.
a calculator, not, I mean, an actual old style calculator.
Yeah, so for those who are listening to this, you don't see the what I'm holding up here, but this is what's referred to as the one-armed devil.
Mm,
Because what Greg's referring to is you used to have to call accounts, and that thing it's got to be balanced to the penny. And
yep.
the joke was that Thursday night, as you're sitting there doing this, that hopefully it wouldn't take too much from you, that the one-armed devil wouldn't take too much from you.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, Greg, um, this is not one that I took from one of the debit companies. This is actually my great grandfather that worked at Penrod. This is
Oh,
his.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so-
Neat. All right. Well, yeah, I remember her and several agents sitting on the floor with their debit books, taken apart by the pages and spread out all over the place trying to find pennies. And now with our EPP system, agents being able to post their own payments, handle their own collections in a much more efficient way. And then just the stress at the end of the month is folks with captive yeah, ledger books and
yeah. So
yeah, it brings back some memories even from my time. The of course one of the last companies I worked for was one of the last companies to give up the old debit book out in the field. Yeah, that was not that long ago with that particular company, but the stress level completely different, and handling your collections and handling your clients is much more. We were professional back then, but I guess maybe professionally efficient, if that's such a thing. We're just able to take care of people better, and as you said, have more time and a lot less stress than we used to.
yeah, I mean, I give you an example. Just as I was on my way to the office to record this interview, I've got a customer that lives an hour away from this office, and I only go to that area the first Monday after the third. So I only run the area when I'm supposed to. So for those of you who are debit agents, you know what I'm referring to there.
Yeah.
Uh, and so she missed me. So guess how she paid? She called and made her payment over the phone.
Yeah.
I didn't have to run back out there like we used to have to do.
Hmm.
And the amazing thing is that as technology has advanced, um, people have still wanted that personal one-on-one, kneecap to kneecap type of experience. because when I was when I started in the business 25 years ago, they told me then, they said, well, this is not going to last because people are starting to get on this thing called the internet. People are going to start doing their stuff more through the job insurance. And this is like the old ways, joy while it lasts, but this is kind of the new wave of the future. And I'll say, like Mark Twain and later Steve Jobs said, the news of my death was been greatly exaggerated, I think is how they phrased it, because we're still around today doing the same thing. Sure, we don't have to collect weekly premiums anymore. Sure, we don't have to have ledger books and one-armed bandits um, to balance the things. To Greg's point, we've been able to adapt the technology in a way that makes a lot more sense than what uh, changing everything would make sense, right? And it's our niche because most of the companies that were in this business are either not in business at all anymore, or have been gobbled up or become what we refer to as ordinary companies, where transactions are simply done over the phone. So as much as technology has progressed, it's given us more and more opportunities for us to stand out in among the competition. When we go into houses, how often, Greg, do you just maybe run into one company, maybe two at best? I can't remember the last time I ran into an agent out there collecting in the field at the same time that I was. So it's just the competition in our market's just not there. So it's kind of like Jesus said, the field is white with the harvest, but the laborers are few. That's kind
Right.
of what we do. We get together, we tell some fun stories, and then we talk about the opportunities that, in particular, Security National are able to provide if you're looking for a place to call home. Now, Greg, I always like to joke about everything. So hopefully, you've got a fun story to tell about maybe something that happened to you while you've been in this business. And change the names to protect the guilty, by the way.
Oh, well, okay. I guess I would have to change the name of an area,
Okay.
maybe to protect the guilty. Like on an individual basis, the first debit I ever had, one of my clients actually was my third grade math teacher. And so I went out, Miss Llewella, and I went out and collected Miss Llewella's insurance premium. And since she had, I was in her third grade class, so she taught me math. Of course, they had all the subjects together under one teacher.
Right.
But since she had taught me math, she double checked what I marked in her book to make sure it was correct. But as far as an area is concerned, I was brought in to take over a book in a rural area here in Louisiana, just north of where I live. And it was the 9th of the month. And of course, that's a bad time to be starting having to take a book that's been dropped and nothing's
Right.
been done on. You're already behind the book. So, and at that point, I was driving a little gold Chevy Malibu Classic was the car I was in. And so I went to this rural area, and of course, I had on my shirt and tie and slacks and so forth, and was getting out and visiting homes. And the first couple of days I went to this particular area, I wasn't finding anybody at home. I just couldn't understand. And so I went back a third time, a few days later, and I happened to catch one of my clients out in the field. Her name is Joyce Brown. And Miss Joyce Brown was outside doing some yard work. And I pulled up in the driveway, and she says, "Oh, it's you." And I said, "Well, what do you mean, oh, it's you?" Well, I heard somebody been driving around, in a gold Chevy Malibu Classic. I said, "Yeah, I'm the new insurance guy in this area. They brought me in to take care of you folks. The other person left." "Oh, okay, I understand. Okay, well, I'll call everybody now because they all thought you were a cop. And they weren't going to answer the door." So at that point on, when I went back into town, she lived just outside of this area. I went back into town, and of course, collections were a lot more successful. So I had to start paying more attention to my demeanor and understanding when you get out with a serious look on your face, maybe people take you too serious.
Yeah. Worked for a company that used to have handhelds um, to post their collections in, and they had a holster that you could get to put on your belt side. And I had that happen before too, where they would think I was the constable or something like that.
But yes, it's been fun. I had little Miss Alberta was the first person on that particular book that contacted me and said, "Hey, where's so and so?" And I said, "Well, they're not with us anymore. I'm your new insurance person." She said, "Oh, I knew she wasn't going to last. When are you coming to get my money?" And I went and met up with Miss Alberta. She had a $200 plus premium that she paid like clockwork every month. I ended up insuring most of her family in that area. And she recently passed, and I actually attended the services. She was still, with a different company, one I had worked with previously. But
Mhm.
I enjoyed Miss Alberta. She was a sweetheart, and she helped me out a great deal.
Yeah, it's funny you say that about collecting your teacher. When I went to work for another company, they had I walked into the office and my study hall teacher was in there. She was an agent. I was like, Miss Blanchard, what are you doing in here? She said, it was kind of funny to work beside somebody who had been previously viewed as, somebody in authority, right? Um,
Right.
so I don't know if she was starting to feel old or I was, but either way.
Well,
Um,
Miss Llewellyn was just intimidating. So, but in her home, she had a completely different demeanor. So that she was nice. She still checked my math though.
hey, that's good. Keep you on your toes. Um, So, as we wrap things up, Greg, which again appreciate you for taking the time to record this today. Um, what sales tip can you leave for the listener that if they're in the home service insurance business working for us, we don't want to give no sales tips to competitors. Just joking. Just joking. But yeah, if there's a sales tip that you can give to some of the listeners here that they can take and maybe apply in their areas.
I would say be very cognizant of the fact that you're the one that adds value to the insurance that you're providing them with. And what I mean by that is when someone uh, purchases coverage through you, then they're getting not only this isn't a one-off thing. We're not an ordinary company that is going to put somebody on bank draft and walk away. We're not somebody that's going to make them just a number to count and never see them again. We what we do is different. We establish a relationship and we build on that relationship. So be very proud of what you do and understand the value that you add to that particular relationship when you present something to someone. But as far as a sales tip, I've heard people that say, well, and you had mentioned go through work or go online or go these ads that you see on TV. Here's where you come in and here's where you become the important person. I received today a letter advertisement from an insurance company that was supported, or I should say, um, endorsed by a certain retirement organization. And on the envelope, it said, "This is a personal um, offer for you." That's not necessarily a bad thing, except the envelope and the information was addressed to my first wife, who passed away in 2015.
Hmm.
These companies that advertise on TV, go through mailers and all that, they understand no one. They don't know who they're selling to, and people are not going to know who to call if they have a problem. So you're the value. When you become their insurance man, they call you when they have questions. Sometimes they'll call you when they have questions about car insurance or health insurance and so forth. But you establish a relationship, become their insurance man, and the premium actually, to a degree, becomes secondary. The other thing you mentioned was job insurance, people getting insurance on the job. And sure, job insurance is great, it's cheap. A lot of times you can get it without having to qualify for it. Here's a cautionary tale there. When I speak to someone in the field and they say, "Oh, no, I don't need anything. I have my insurance to my job." I said, "Well, the insurance on the job's great as long as you work till you die. If you're not planning on working till you die, then you need to have something in in your own control, in your own grasp." But especially here in Natchitoches Parish, we had a plant closed down back in February, earlier this year, back in April, that had been a woodworking mill, wood mill that had been working for 50 years. Now, there were 729 people that had insurance through their job that they found out that 60 days later they were not going to have, because they were not going to have a job. So don't let that hold you back. When people tell me they have insurance on their job, I say, well, that's great. It's designed to replace your income if you pass. But what I'm talking about is taking care of final expenses, and you need to have that under your control. If you're planning on your job doing that, then you're planning on your company being there to bury you when that time comes. You don't want that. Don't take that chance. So what you want is something you control, so that you know for a fact 100% that your family is taken care of when your time comes. So appreciate what you do. Understand that what you do is very important. Understand the value you're adding to your transaction. Be confident when you're talking with people. And when it comes to job insurance, that is iffy at best. And please explain that to them.
For sure. I mean, if you, when you're making the sales pitch, to Greg's point, you're not making a pitch as much about life insurance than you are, as you are about the services you provide. So basically, you're saying that, Miss Jones, I'm willing to be your agent. Now, some people would deem that cocky or arrogant. Dizzy Dean had a saying that says it wasn't cocky if you could back it up. I don't know about that, but I will say that in the services you're providing are not simply the insurance policy you're selling. And if you always work on what the cheapest premium is, because I will tell you here for those listening, we're not always the cheapest premium. I can only say that we're only the most company on the most solid footing. I can only say that we pay what we say we're going to pay and try to pay it when we are supposed to pay it. So that's the promise that I made to Miss Jones. So after I sell her on me and my services, to Greg's point, and premium secondary, because it's part of a package, right? It's not just simply a policy. So we try not to do as what we probably did or maybe have been falsely accused of in the past, which is policy peddling. But we try to provide value for those said customers. So good tips there, Greg. And for those of you that are listening and maybe not as familiar with Security National Life, you can visit snlhomeservice.com. And if you're interested in finding out how you too can get appointed and licensed with the state that you are in and appointed with the company that we're talking about, whether Security National Life or Kilpatrick Life, then you can click on Find More, and we can get you in touch with the appropriate manager in your respective area. And so if maybe you already are familiar with home service, maybe the algorithm, as it were, gave you something that you wanted to actually listen to for a change. And you're thinking, man, I thought I was like Luke Skywalker. I was the last Jedi, until you heard this. There are other home service companies out there. And so if you're with a company that you love dealing with your customers each and every month, and you love the interaction, the getting out, not having to be in the office, and have been able to make a good living in doing so, but you don't feel appreciated, then I would encourage you to reach out to us. Going to the website, snlhomeservice.com is the appropriate website, and check us out there. Like I said earlier, this is episode 13 of One Door at a Time. Whether you're listening to this on YouTube or Spotify, Be sure to smash that like button or appropriate sign of appreciation, and consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss this future episodes of this. Once again, thanks, Greg, for hopping on with us. And until next time, happy selling.